Awesome. So, let's see. To start, it's week 5. We're more than halfway through, so that's exciting. You guys made it. We're on our way into December, which means we're on our way getting closer to that winter solstice day. And I do want to mention I do have that class up. It'll be that Tuesday, the 21st at 8:30. It's going to be, I made it a 2-hour class just so we have plenty of time and don't feel rushed. And again, not that we have to get 108, but I want to be able to maybe put in some breaks in there where we can kind of pause, don't have to, so we're not constantly just moving. We can kind of take a moment, pause, maybe do some extra little movements in there. So, and then I did make that one a charge class. So it's $12. So it's just for that kind of extra hour. So you're still getting, 1 hour included and stuff. And then we aren't having a second class that week. So try to make it for that Tuesday if you can. I know you guys are the Tuesday group. What, on vacation? Okay, well, we'll live stream if you want to join live stream.
I'm not live, so.
Okay, well, I'm gonna have the recording. Okay. Okay, well, I'll have the recording available, so feel free. If you can't do it Tuesday, don't worry. I mean, it's still in that same time, it's still the season of the solstice, and so you can definitely just do that whenever you can, when you get back. So I'll have the recording available was going to be my next point too. If you can't make that Tuesday class, the recording is going to be available so that you have something to, try out from all of this strengthening that we've been doing and all this building the foundation. But again, if you just want to skip that Tuesday class and you're like, nope, I've been great. This has been good knowledge, and I'm good without. Yeah, but I want you to know I won't be offended if you don't want to come to that class. But this is, it was like, this was the point of the series, and now it's like, all right, if you're up for it, then I'm going to be here. And like I said, I'm going to try to make it as accessible as possible, and that's why we're focusing on these breaking down modifications, things like that. So with that being said, yep, we're on week 5, and that's going to be focusing on our back strengthening, which is leading to our upward facing dog part of our sun salutation. And then I'll also kind of break down our low cobra, that baby cobra that we do in our modified sun salutation, just as also a back strengthening variation that we can choose there. And before I jump into that, I just wanted to check in on last week and our planks. How did we feel? I'm sore. I'm really sore. So are we still feeling sore? Right? Yeah, back here, our traps and our triceps and stuff, right? Yeah. And that's, lesson learned too. Because that's something I was like, man, I'm really sore. And so I'm like, man, that's something that I realized I just hadn't done planks or chaturangas like that for a while. And so even myself, I'm like, I could do it, but man, I'm like, I kind of overdid it too, because I'd rather not be this sore, but I'm making it through, right? So I hope to, or did we get some ice? Do we feel okay? And that's also, sometimes we have to overdo it accidentally or purposely to kind of know, all right, I overdid it. Let's not do that again. And it's important and very awesome to know. And I guess I just want to say I'm proud of you guys too, when you become mindful of that, like, oh, I overdid it, and then let's not go there again. Because a lot of people, they don't realize that they're overdoing it, and they just continue to overdo it, and then that can really hurt your body. And so be proud of yourself when you notice, all right, I overdid it, and then just be mindful. All right, I know that I'm not going to go that far. I know I'm going to take those modifications. I know I'm going to take a little break. I know I'm just going to, listen to my body and not push myself as far next time. And you'll thank yourself in the long run. So just know that that's an okay place to be. It's a great place to be. And that's just showing yourself compassion and really being good on your body. That's self-love, putting yourself as priority. So with that being said, we'll jump right into it. So let's see, our upward facing dog, our Urdhva Mukha Svanasana. It's a long word. I'm just throwing that word out there so you can kind of hear that Sanskrit name, that traditional name for it. And then our Cobra is our Bhujangasana, which is a little bit easier to say. And so We will also be covering, so in terms of our back strengthening, like I said, we've got our core work that we're going to work into our weekly classes, and that's going to be great for counteracting our back strengthening today. So I kind of tried to add in one that's going to be pretty challenging, but we're going to be relaxed at the beginning, and then one that's going to just kind of add some heat in the middle. And without going over too much an overview, the last thing I want to say is we're going to go over option 6, which is basically just kind of putting together everything we've learned. So that full chaturanga option with our upward facing dog. So last week we went fully down onto the mat, and then we pressed up into a full cobra. And so know that that is still an option today. But what we're going to be focusing on in an upward facing dog is really activating into the thighs, into the glutes, or more into the thighs, so that we can lift our thighs off the mat. So it's really about that strength without dumping into the low back. And so that's where we're going to be working up to today. And yeah, so just know that any modification that you've learned, feel free to do that as we hit our kind of overview of our sun salutation, as we start to flow into those in our flow today. But that's kind of where we're headed, is that full sun salutation option. And yeah, let's go ahead and get started. I'll stop my chatting. I noticed that when I'm more sleep deprived, I'm more chatty. So, and I'm like, information. I'm like, I think I'm just repeating myself. So bear with me for giving too much overview. So anyways, let's go ahead and find our seat here to start. And if you want to place that purple pad underneath your hips, you have the option to do so, but go ahead and rock a little right and left. Make sure that we're nice and comfy here. Hips are flat onto the mat. And then reach the crown of the head nice and tall, and relax the shoulders down and back. Our hands can just relax onto the lap. And go ahead and start to close your eyes here and just take note of how you're feeling. Taking note of where your body and mind is at today. Whatever may be coming up here, thoughts that may be on a loop, any tensions within the body. On your next exhale, go ahead and release them with your breath. Let it go. As you inhale here, next breath in, breathe in some fresh energy, fill those lungs. And exhale again, let it go. Maybe you find you need to get some last little wiggles out here as we take our final big cleansing breath. As you inhale through the nose, ribs expand, filling the lungs to the top. And then exhale, let it go. Let's find some stillness here. If you were taking any last little wiggles, let's bring one hand to the heart, one hand to the belly button. And then seal up your lips as you start to bring your breath in through the nose. And then consciously steady back out through the nose. Creating a balanced breath here as we inhale together for 1, 2, 3, 4. Exhale, 4, 3, 2, 1. Inhale, 1, 2, 3, 4. Exhale, 4, 3, 2, 1. Inhale, 1, 2, 3, 4. Exhale, 4, 3, 2, 1. Inhale, 1, 2, 3, 4. Exhale, 4, 3, 2, 1. Inhale, 1, 2, 3, 4. Exhale, 4, 3, 2, 1. Go ahead and continue this breath here for a few more on your own as you create a steady rhythm for your practice. A breath that can guide you through your poses today. As you establish this rhythm, maybe you find an intention to go along with this. Be a word, maybe a phrase to serve as a mantra, a bridge between mind and body. Maybe you embody a feeling like gratitude, strength, compassion, or simply be open to receive through your breath today. Whatever it is here, on your next inhale, breathe it in, inhale and honor it before it even shows up on your mat. And then exhale, release any expectations surrounding how it may turn out for you today. One more big inhale, breathing in, sealing it in, and exhale, let it go. May this yoga practice open and strengthen your mind and heart. May this yoga practice open and strengthen your mind and heart. Let's go ahead and release those hands down into the lap. Maybe you roll out the neck a few times to the right. Nice slow circles. And when you're ready, take it on to the left. Let's go ahead and find our center. Open up those eyes as we start to lean back, unravel those legs. If you have that padding underneath the hips, let's go ahead and remove that. And then grabbing for those knees or underneath the thighs, let's start to roll down onto the back and relax down onto the back. Take a moment here, hug those knees in towards the chest, squeeze them in. You roll out the lower back to the right and to the left. And then finding your center here, give those knees a big squeeze in, and then notice if your tailbone is really peeling up off the floor. See if you can plant it back down while hugging those knees in towards the chest. And then relax the shoulders back down towards the mat. So really squeeze, big inhale. Exhale, squeeze them in. And then gently releasing your knees. We'll plant our feet hip width distance. Walk the feet in towards your hips. Arms come long down beside you. Scooch the shoulders away from the ears. Exhale all your out. Find our bridge pose. As we inhale, press into the heels, press in the shoulders all the way to the fingertips. So use your full forearms as base. Lift the hips to the sky as you squeeze into the glutes. Inner thighs squeeze towards each other. Lift a little higher here. Make sure your gaze is up towards the ceiling, neutral and straight into the neck. As we inhale, find a little bit more lift. And then exhale, slowly start to lower your hips down to the mat. We'll let those hips relax down to the mat. Bring the soles of the feet to touch. Let the knees fall out wide. Finding your reclined butterfly here for a moment. Bringing the feet as close to the hips as feels good to bend those knees and deepen the opening into the hips, or maybe take the feet away from the hips to modify this. Let the knees just fall out to the sides, into the floor. Maybe it feels good to rock your head right and left if you still need some release and movement into the neck. Try to go a little slower than you want to go. And then wherever you're at, let's find our center here. We'll bring the knees to close up to center like a book. And then notice here if you have an arch into the back, so plant it to the feet, pull the pelvis up towards the sky and really lay that tailbone flat to the mat. And then when you're ready, bend the knees up towards the chest so we can bring our knees to a 90-degree bend to the sky. Bring our arms out to a T, palms face down, and then scooch those shoulders away from the ears. Finding your navel to suck in towards the spine. So really suck that back down to flat to the mat. And then exhale, let your knees drop over to the right. Gentle twist here. Maybe you take a block and place that underneath the knees so that the knees don't have to fall all the way to the floor if you need to modify there. Allowing a twist into the torso here, and then check your left shoulder, see if you can step it back down towards the mat. Take one more breath, big inhale, find length into the torso. And then exhale, find your twist, let the knees just sink towards the floor. Big inhale, lift the knees back to center. Find your back to flatten back down to the mat, so suck the belly button towards the spine. And then on your next exhale, knees drop to the left, opposite side. Find your twist. Again, using a block underneath the knees if we need there. Bringing the floor just a little closer. Check in with your shoulders. Make sure they're flat onto the mat. Your gaze is wherever's comfortable on your neck. Finding a ring and rinse into the torso for one more breath. Then using your core strength, let's lift those knees back to center. Go ahead and hug the knees in towards the chest. And we're going to get into our first set of core work here. So from where you're at, we're going to keep our knees lifted, but go ahead and see if you can cross your right knee over the left. So you're going to cross your right leg over the left. So as best as you can there, they don't have to be completely wrapped around each other, but kind of finding an eagle pose on our back. So we're going to take our arms out wide here and then sweep our right arm underneath the left. Maybe you grab for opposite hands or wrists, or maybe you just grab for opposite elbows. Wherever you're at here, trying to find that eagle pose, our Garandasana eagle on our back. And then next inhale, you're going to reach your fingertips if you have your hands. If you have your shoulders, just kind of lengthen up. Lengthen the legs out long. And then exhale, crunch knees into elbows. Inhale, reach everything long. Exhale, crunch it in. Inhale, reach it long. Exhale, crunch it in. We got two more. Inhale, reach it long. Exhale, crunch it in. Inhale, lengthen. Last one, exhale, crunch it in. Hold here. Maybe find baby pulses, pulsing knees and elbows. Last 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Let's go ahead and release, unravel everything. Lengthen your legs out long, lengthen your arms out long, full body stretch. Reach it out, lengthen. Wiggle the toes, wiggle the fingers. And then let's go ahead and take our right hand over towards the right top of our mat, and then take the right foot over towards the bottom right corner of the mat. Let's meet your left foot over towards that right foot, and then the left hand over towards the right. Maybe you stack the palms, and maybe you cross the left foot over the right leg if that helps deepen this. But then see if you can bump those hips over towards the left. So creating a banana shape on your yoga mat. So Glenda, bring your, yeah, there we go. Yeah, so we're stretching through the side body. So reaching the arms off to the right and the feet off to the right, and then bumping those hips off to the left. Yeah, so we normally do this standing, but this is just laying on the mat, finding a nice gentle side stretch here. Releasing. And if you had that cross into the legs, and if you had your hands stacked, let's go ahead and walk everything back to center and switch sides. So take your left hand to the top left corner. Take your right hand over to meet it, and then take your feet over to the bottom left corner and bump your hips over to the right. Yeah, there you go, Glenda. Yeah, there you go. Nice job. So creating that banana shape to the opposite side here. Finding length through the fingertips and through the feet. Then bump those hips, stretching through the side body. One more breath. Big inhale. And exhale. And then gently start to unravel those legs and stack those hands as you walk everything back to center. Let's bend the knees in towards the chest. Give them a squeeze. And then release the legs. We'll stack our left leg over the right this time. 2 on the other side to even out. Bring our arms out wide when you're ready. And then swing your left arm underneath the right. Grab for the shoulders, or maybe wrapping around and grabbing for the wrists or hands. Finding your eagle pose here on our back. Other side. So inhale, lengthen everything long. Exhale, crunch knee into your elbow. Nice job. Inhale, lengthen everything long. Exhale, crunch it in. Inhale, lengthen. Exhale, crunch. Find your breath. Last 2. Inhale, lengthen. Exhale, crunch it in. Last one. Inhale, lengthen. Exhale, crunch it in. Holding in here. Maybe find baby pulses. Last 3, 2, 1. We'll inhale, lengthen, unravel everything out. Full length and full body stretch. Reach those fingertips long. Reach the legs long. And then when you're ready here, let's go ahead and hug those knees in, maybe roll out the lower back, circles to the right and to the left. And then plant your feet down, hip width distance. Let's find one more bridge pose here. So arms come long down beside you, scooch the shoulders away from the ears. Walk the feet back towards those hips. Exhale all your air out. And then inhale, press into the feet as you squeeze into the glutes, lift those hips up high to the sky. We'll stretch to that front side here as we squeeze those inner thighs together, lift a little higher, pressing into the heels, pressing from the shoulders all the way to the fingertips, using your forearms as bases, lift a little higher. And then exhale, slowly start to lower those hips down. Rock those knees right and left. Let's find our way to center as we grab for those knees, start to rock and roll up the spine, if that feels good, or maybe just roll off to the side and press up. Either way, you're gonna rock up and over those knees and find your tabletop. Maybe you place your purple pad underneath your knees if we need some extra padding there. Let's find our full cat-cow. Nice stretch out after all that good ab work. So planting your palms underneath your shoulders, spreading your fingers out wide, maybe finding a fist, stacking your shoulders over the fist if we have wrist issues, or placing your yoga mat, kind of curling that under and placing that underneath your palms. So wherever you're at here, knees are hip width distance. And the next inhale, drop the belly button to the spine, pull your chest through, gaze goes up. Really stretch out that front side body. Exhale, start to round your chin in towards your chest. Round through the shoulders and back. Inhale, drop the belly, arch to the back, gaze up. Exhale, round. Find one more inhale, pull your chest through, gaze goes up. Exhale, round. Let's go ahead and find our center here as we straighten out that spine. Planting into the palms, let's start to curl under your toes, lift the knees, press your hips high and back for a downward facing dog. Just for a moment here, create that V shape into the body, bend the knees as much as you need. Head relaxes heavy towards the floor as you press your chest towards the thighs, hips high to the sky. This is going to be our next pose for next week, so we'll get to more about this one later. And then gaze up towards the top of your mat. Maybe you start to walk your feet or take a big step. However you get there, we're going to take our forward folds here, feet hip width distance, starting out with a ragdoll. So feet hip width distance as you bend deep into the knees, relax your chest over your thighs, your whole upper body folds over. And then hands either can relax heavy towards the mat. Maybe you grab for opposite elbows. Maybe even place your blocks on their ends so you can place your elbows to rest. Just let your head and neck hang heavy. And just start to use this as a check-in with where you're at here into the low back, into your hamstrings. So if we're feeling any tight tugging into the low back here, really bend those knees. Maybe you'd like to find a little sway into the right foot and left. Maybe you find a sway into the upper body, kind of right and left there. Just noticing any movement here you want to take. The last movement I'll offer, though, if you'd like to, is shake your head no. Release any tension in the neck. Shake your head no to any of those negative thoughts. And then ending with a yes. Shake your head yes. Yes to being here on your mat today, creating a practice like this. And then finding our center here. Let's go ahead and release the elbows. Release our hands towards the mat so we can walk our feet to touch. Press into all four corners as we bend into the knees. Inhale, circle sweep, hands reach high. Exhale, palms to heart center. We'll take one more inhale, circle sweep. Optional back bend. If you open up those elbows, 90-degree bend, gaze up, lean back to squeeze into the shoulder blades. And inhale, reach high as we exhale, palms to heart center. Let's go ahead and release our hands down before we get into our breakdown of our Tadasana and our poses that we've covered so far. Let's grab for that massage ball and roll out our feet. I love that many people have been telling me that they have been getting into a habit of rolling out their feet. I said, if I'm going to have one hidden agenda to this whole series, if it's rolling out your feet and that becomes a habit, then like, great, that's awesome. Right. Yeah. So that's awesome. I mean, that's really, really powerful. So, and you know, good habits are never bad. So that's really awesome. So just play around with how it feels here on that right foot, maybe finding those tender spots, putting some extra pressure there. Maybe notice how it feels to spread those toes out and kind of roll right and left onto the toes. Take about one more breath, finishing up, maybe 2 more breaths, finishing up any sweet spots or anything that feel like we still need to get to. No rush here. Oh, yeah, it's a good one. But when we're ready, we can go ahead and place that ball to a good stop so that you can place both feet down on the mat. And just take a note here before we switch to the other side, placing both feet down, maybe close the eyes and just take that mindful moment of noticing how the right foot is a little bit more rooted, a little more grounded. And the left foot just feels lifted off the floor a little bit, just noticing that difference. Hard to describe, but when you notice it, you notice it. And then when you're ready, let's switch over to the left foot and even it out. And so taking those moments to, again, acknowledge the difference it makes, that really hounds in the benefits that you're getting from doing these types of things. So I really am proud of you guys for making this a habit. And again, even taking that habit of pausing in between and taking that note, that mindful moment to notice that. So finding whatever spots here on that left foot feel good. Maybe rolling out through those toes here. Again, placing just pressure and holding on any spot that feels like it's juicy and tense and needs to be released. And taking about 1 or 2 more breaths. No rush here, but just finishing up any last little spots that we feel we need to tend to. And when you're ready, again, no rush. I'm gonna place that massage ball off to the side and find our mountain pose. So starting to set up into our base here to review our mountain pose and get into our review of our other postures. So finding your feet to touch. Remember, if we feel that our knees or ankles are knocking uncomfortably, let's separate those slightly. We'll squeeze in our thighs together slightly, tuck that pelvis forward, tuck the navel towards the spine, really lengthen up through the torso. Feel that length through the spine all the way up to the ceiling like you have a string pulling you up like a puppet. But then lastly, let your fingertips just guide those shoulders down and nice relax. Again, check in with the torso nice and strong through the front so that we have a nice straight spine into the back. Gaze is forward. Find your drishti, something out into the distance or maybe on the floor in front of you that you can focus in your energy and focus in your gaze. We'll find some breath here as we inhale. Take your hands, sweep them up high. Find your length for the torso. Exhale, palms to heart center. Feel a root into the feet. Inhale, reach those hands high. Gaze up, lengthen up. Exhale, root down, palms to heart center. Last one, inhale, circle sweep, hands reach high. So we exhale, palms to heart center, hinge at the hips, start to bend in the knees, and forward fold. Hands either come to your blocks or down to the mat. We'll find our forward fold here. So whether your knees need to be bent as much as they need here to release the low back. Start to lift your hips towards the sky as you pull your forehead towards your shins. Yeah. On your next inhale here, press into your blocks, or maybe use the mat or your shins to lift halfway. Nice job. So strong, flat back, strong core. Beautiful, guys. And then exhale, plant your hands towards the mat. Let's step our feet back. Finding our plank pose. We won't hold it for too long, but find your strong foundation here, whichever variation you take, your forearm plank, your full plank, your modified plank, plenty of options here. So finding our shoulders stacked over our wrists, or maybe finding, if you're in your in your forearm plank, we want to make sure that our shoulders are stacked over those elbows. Strong here, keep those hips nice and lifted, gazes between your thumbs, if not slightly forward. We want a nice flat back. And then slightly tuck that pelvis so that we can keep our strong core here. We don't want those hips too lifted or too saggy. Nice job. Whether you drop the knees or stay high, slowly start to lower to the mat. Again, trying to hug those elbows in towards the rib cage as you do so. Slowly lowering all the way down. Nice job. Lower to the belly. Let's stay here onto the belly, and we're going to start to break down our Bhujangasana and our upward facing dog. So from here, we all know we've done our low cobra. So let's go to that first. We're going to keep our chin down to the mat. Our palms are underneath our shoulders. Elbows bent like little grasshopper wings. Zipper up those legs behind you. Top of the feet are flat. Squeeze the inner thighs towards each other. And so I'm going to turn here as well so that we can see what I mean if we need to. When I press into the tops of the feet, my knees will slightly lift off the mat as I engage into my thighs. So when I squeeze those inner thighs and press the tops of the feet, those knees just kind of naturally lift off the mat. And that's going to help give you strength here as we exhale our air out. Let that chin relax. Inhale, start to lift the crown of the head, peeling the chest off the mat. Those feet press into the mat to help support and take pressure off the low back. As we lift up, try to keep your weight out of the palms so it's more of your back strength lifting up. Squeeze those elbows nice and tight like little grasshopper wings. Beautiful low cobra, guys. And then exhale, go ahead and relax down, chin relaxes. Let your legs just relax, let your arms kind of flap like floppy wings. We're gonna find one more low cobra like that, one more rep of that. So let's start to zipper up those legs, tops of the feet press into the mat. Again, your knees will just naturally start to lift off the mat as you squeeze the inner thighs together. Your chin relaxes to center as we squeeze our elbows to our sides. Exhale, you're out. Inhale, start to lift the crown of the head towards the ceiling as you peel your chest off the mat. Gaze goes forward, squeeze into the shoulder blades. So we're squeezing those elbows back like little grasshopper arms tight to our sides as we press the tops of the feet, lift a little higher. And then exhale, gently start to relax your chin down. We have, actually, before I jump to our third set, I just want to make one note about that baby cobra. So go ahead, and if it feels good, you can kind of prop up onto the elbows and gaze forward at me, if that feels okay for you, just to take a moment to look. So our baby cobra here, when we do our modified chaturanga on our knees and we lower down, this is our baby. We can go straight into that baby cobra and that's why when I mostly cue our modified chaturanga as lead with your chin, chest, belly, that's going to help scoop your chest through and go straight into that baby cobra because our hands are just naturally right where they need to be to just lift right up into that. But then the idea here is that you're using your back strength and not much into your palms. So eventually, when you feel that your back strength is there enough to, you can start to lift your palms kind of off the mat. We don't want to, do this, but it's more about just having this light touch to where you're not even using your palms to do this. It's not about pressing into the palms and lifting that because that's going to put pressure onto the low back. So it's really about squeezing into the inner thighs, pressing those feet, and then light into the palms and just use that back strength to lift yourself up. So know that you can start to kind of test to lifting those palms to kind of notice where your back strength is at. But if you notice you're like, oh, I'm really into my palms, then that back strength still needs to be worked on. But the way you work on it is still keeping those palms there and keeping the weight you need to, but focus on, all right, I need to pull those shoulders back. I need to take it more into lifting the chest up versus pressing into the palms. So it's just about being mindful about where you're putting weight into. So, all right, so just know that in your low cobra, you have that option to kind of test that out with your back strength. For our third set, we're gonna try our full cobra. So for our full cobra, our chin relaxes down, our palms stay underneath our shoulders, and our elbows still bent like grasshopper wings. Let's go ahead and take your feet about hip width distance. So in our full cobra, try to take those feet hip width distance so that it helps release your back, because what we're doing is exhale all your air out, and then press into the palms, start to lift your crown of the head all the way to the sky, straight into those hands. So we're pressing into the palms this time, but our feet are hip width distance so that we can relax our hips towards the mat and our thighs stay on the mat. So when our legs are together, that's putting a little bit more pressure onto the low back. So that's why I instruct, go ahead and separate those feet. Our thighs are heavy. And if you notice that this is still quite too much, we have this option in our full cobra to walk those hands forward, and that's gonna help still get that full cobra motion of finding that bigger arch into the back. But you can modify that arch and walk those hands forward and take it a little less of an arch. If you notice you're like, no, I'm ready for more of an arch, you can press your hands closer to the hips, and that's gonna give you more of a lift and more of an arch. But no, that's gonna also be more into that low back. So be mindful there, because if we have tight hamstrings, that's probably gonna affect that low back, if you might be noticing as we start to press into this. And so that's where, if you're like full cobra, it's still feeling too much, then stay into this and just do another rep of your baby cobra. So just giving you those steps. So if you're ready for your full cobra here, let's try a rep of this. Exhale your chin down, exhale all your air out. And then inhale, we'll press into the palms as we start to lift the crown of the head tall again, allowing the hips to relax forward, thighs relax, but notice into the low back. If it's too tight or tense, so slow her down and modify. What's that? So if you notice that you're in these grasshopper wings to start and you press up and it's just, you're not able to go straight, that's your indication that you need to modify and walk those hands forward. Yeah. So that's all because, that just means that your back's not quite there to be able to, and so just notice if you walk those hands forward, does that make it a little bit easier to straighten out, right? Yeah. So that's all it is. It's just a kind of indicator that we just need to walk those hands and modify that is all. Yeah. All right, so from here, if you'd like to try, since we kind of walked and talked through that, let's try one more. Let's try our full set of our full cobra here. Chin down to the mat, exhale your air out. And then inhale, we'll press into the palms, lift the crown of the head tall. So really pressing again, making that modification if we need to walk the palms forward. Nice job. And notice if we're letting those shoulders hike up by the ears, really press and lift out of those shoulders. And then exhale, slowly lower down, hug those elbows tight to the rib cage to support you. Nice job. And then go ahead here. You can bring your forearms in front to stack and then relax your head down. And so for our Bhujangasana, that baby cobra, that's gonna help strengthen our spine and our glutes, because we're helping squeeze and press into, the activation into the legs. That's gonna help strengthen all the way up into the spine. And it's also stretching our chest, our abdominals, and our shoulders. But like I mentioned, we have to be cautious about back injury and tensing the glutes too much, which is gonna add pressure to the back there. So, and also splaying those elbows out. Again, keeping those nice and tight by the sides is gonna help support you as you lift the chest. And then for that cobra pose, it's very important to keep the hips on the mat. So we don't want to try to press and lift those hips off the mat in that. Again, that's going to be keeping the weight out of our palms. And so for our upward facing dog, we'll get into breaking that down now. So if you're ready, you can lift up onto your forearms and just kind of gaze up at me. And so for our upward facing dog, what we're really focusing on is elongating through our legs and through our arms. And so I realize I'm going to turn this so you can kind of see a little bit better from the side. Can you guys still, it's just a little bit easier to see for the back strengthening part. I realize. So for our upward facing dog here, like I said, from our chaturanga or even from your modified chaturanga, you can come into this. So I'll show what modified chaturanga first. You know, you're just gonna let those legs, so are still pressing into the tops of the feet, but we're pressing into the palms and we're lifting the knees and thighs off the mat. And so we're trying to elongate through the toes, elongate through our palm, you know, if that makes sense. So elongating through the hands and elongating out through the toes. Does that make sense? So we're trying to create a full extension throughout the body, like throughout the full spine. But again, it's a lot onto the low back. If we don't have that strength necessarily there in our back strengthening to lift those thighs off the mat, because it can be a lot. And so I want you guys to approach this carefully, depending on how you feel with your low back and how you're feeling with our modifications that we've done thus far. And if you feel like, you know, that full Cobra, if that's not quite there, then maybe let's wait on the upward facing dog. Like, I don't want you to, again, attempt something that you're not ready for, but also it's good to attempt it if you know, it's good to attempt it to see where you're at with it. So that's where I would say give it one shot today. But also if you're feeling that you're like, you know, just, you know, your body, if you're feeling that it's too much, then again, come back to just practicing on that full Cobra. Just take it that step down. That's why I'm giving those kind of steps and modifications. So another important thing to note for our upward facing dog is we want our wrists stacked underneath our shoulders. And that's going to help keep us supported. And so that's going to naturally, like, they're stacked underneath our shoulders from our plank pose. And so when we lower down and shift forward, that's going to be natural for them to be stacked under. But the idea is we don't want to be pressing, you know, we don't want to be shoving ourselves forward. We want to press out of those palms. We can really lift our shoulders up over our palms, if that makes sense. So it's a lot. That's what it's a lot of back strengthening, because to do that, it's your back pulling your chest up, right? It's your back muscles arching your back up and pulling your chest up. And so that's why we start with our baby Cobra, those smaller little back strengthening. Then we take it up to that full Cobra, and then there's upward facing dog. And so just know you have those steps to eventually work your way up to upward facing dog if it's not feeling there today. But I'm trying to break this down so that we can have those right tools, so that when you're ready for upward facing dog, we know how to approach it. Because a lot of people, when they go into their upward facing dog, they do this and they let their hips sag. And this is a lot until this is like, it's like tense onto the low back. I'm already feeling it. And so this is what a lot of people's upward facing dogs look like. And they just, you know, they shift forward. They might do a great chaturanga, but then they might just plop down, and that's what their upward dog facing like. And that's a lot. Yeah. And it's okay. I mean, it's just about, you know, being mindful that it's a full body motion. This going from plank to upward facing dog and downward facing dog, we're not actually ever coming down to the mat. And so that's why it's like your thighs for upward facing dog shouldn't be touching the floor, because you just shift over on those toes, those feet come flat and your thighs stay up. So it's a strong posture, and it's a strong motion. And then you press back as you roll over those toes to downward facing dog. And so, you know, it is a full body, it's a full body motion that we're working with. And so, you know, my point is, that's why I'm so focused on building that foundation and so focused on supporting modifications, is because we have to start somewhere, and that's hard. And so even if like that's not in your practice, it's not that motion can't be there, you know, with those modifications. You can still find the same benefits that you're getting in that motion, you know, the work, the challenge, you know, but you're doing it right versus trying to do that full motion and compensating by allowing your hips to drop. Then that's going to hurt the low back, you know. And there's a lot of things that you just aren't realizing when we're trying to achieve that full motion, just because it's the motion, that the ideal, the goal, the, you know, what everyone's doing, it's what the yogis are doing. Whereas like it's your, you know, that's why I stress this is your practice. So with that being said, let's start to get into practicing this, and I'll get into some of the benefits and cautions and such. So like I mentioned, as far as our cautions, again, watching out for our back and again, our wrists. So this is a lot onto our wrists in our upward facing dog. And so know that if we find that if we have wrist issues, I've noticed that I can still do my upward facing dog on my fists. And it's, you know, less onto my wrists, right? It's less of that motion of this. And so know you have that option to still do it, but be cautious because it can be a lot on the wrist. So if we're feeling a lot on the wrist when we're doing upward facing dog, play around with how it feels onto the fist, or again, modify and don't come up into our upward facing dog because we don't want to sacrifice our wrist just to get that full, you know, that full pose. So another caution here. And again, I'm going through these so we aren't holding this, and because this is a hard one to hold, so I don't want you guys to be holding this and you just breaking all this down. You're like, okay. So for another caution here for our shoulders, we don't want to be doing this and that kind of allowing our body just to sag down. It should be a strong pose. So we want to be pressing into the palms and pulling ourselves away from the shoulders. Again, my thighs are lifted. So again, it's that pull and lift away from the shoulders. So that's caution. We don't want to be sagging into the shoulders. We don't want to be hyperextending the elbows necessarily. So try to keep a little bend. So it is working into the arms. And so it's like that one, it's more about if you're super flexible. I would say, you know, it's watching if you're super flexible. That hyperextension is more for those people that are like, can really pop those elbows forward. That's what we want to watch for. If you're not one of those people, then just note that we're not really like, you know, doing that lock out of our elbow. We're still kind of keeping strength into our biceps. And then another one is jutting the rib cage out of the chest. So that might sound weird, but let's see if I can show you rib cage here. This like, you know, like trying to pull the chest forward and do this like exaggeration when all we need to do is just allow this natural stretch by just pressing up and lifting up and just that full extension. Again, by pressing all the way down, you get this full extension through the crown of the head. And then by keeping those legs nice and active and extending through those toes, you get that extension all the way through the back. And so it's this idea that you don't need to extend through the rib cage and try to jut those ribs out just to get that arch that you're necessarily see in our upward facing dog. And then the last caution is dropping the thighs to the floor. Like I said, a lot of people, bloop. So what we want to do is press into the tops of the feet, squeezing our thighs. More about squeezing those inner thighs together than it is about squeezing the glutes. We don't want to overly squeeze our glutes together because that can cause some tension into the low back. So it's more about just allowing those glutes to naturally kind of tense up when you squeeze the inner thighs together. So let's go ahead and give it a try. So we can start here on our belly. And we'll just start by start by palms underneath our shoulders, elbows bent like grasshopper wings. Zip up your legs behind you, tops of the feet flat. So what's that? Yes. So the their feet together, tops of the feet flat into the mat. So if you feel like downward dog isn't going to be for you, again, give it a try. But if it's like, oh, nope, just lower back down and focus on your just baby cobra of still keeping those feet together and still working on that lift and strength of using your back to lift the chest. But let's all start here. Excuse me, relax the chin down. Palms underneath the shoulders here. Next inhale. We're going to start to press into the palms, squeeze inner thighs together, press into tops of the feet, and see if you can start to lift yourself up. Yep. So it's pressing into the tops of the feet. Yeah. So yeah. There. Yeah. But if it feels too much, lower back down. Beautiful. Yep. Nice job, guys. Yep. Okay. Go ahead and lower back down. Okay. Beautiful. How did that feel? Yeah. Okay. So Polly, I would try to bring your feet just a little closer together. Yeah. And just work on squeezing those inner thighs. Your feet just seem like they're a little bit too far apart. So just see how it feels to have those a little closer. But again, if it feels better to kind of meet in between there, I won't argue with that because again, you know your body. And then Sue, we do want our feet flat. So if that was too much, okay. Okay. Oh, okay. Okay. Well, be mindful of that, because it's like, I don't want you to cramp up, but we do want our feet flat when we grow up like that. Yeah. Okay. And then we look good over here. Okay. Okay. So let's try one more set here. So again, if we feel like we want to come into a full cobra, or maybe our baby cobra, you have that option. Our chin to center, our elbows are bent like little grasshopper wings, feet zippered up behind us, tops the feet into the mat. Exhale your air out. And then inhale, see if you can press the tops of the feet, squeeze into the inner thighs, press into the palms, and lift your crown of the head up. So gaze comes forward, allow those hips to sink forward. So we're allowing, allow the hips to sink towards the mat while we keep the leg. Yeah, beautiful. And then gently lower it back down. Nice job, guys. So Polly, it seemed like you were kind of coming into a plank pose a little bit. So really try to allow your hips to settle, allowing that arch to come into the back. Because you were kind of coming into this, where that's more work onto the tops of your feet and more work, more into a plank pose. So just start to allow, bring your gaze forward, and that might allow your hips to sink. Yeah, so in our upward facing dog, if I did mention before, our gaze is forward, and that's gonna help bring our chest forward and allow that arch to come into the back. So for this last set, we'll try it one more time, and I'm gonna offer the option to roll over the toes and come back into a downward dog, which we'll focus more on that next week, more specifically, but I just wanted to start to introduce it this week, all right? So with our chin down, we'll zipper up those legs, tops of the feet press into the mat. Exhale all your air out. And then inhale, press into the palms, press the tops of the feet, lift up into your upward facing dog if it's there, or baby cobra. And then gazes forward. Beautiful. If you have the option, you can roll over those toes, press those hips high, or drop the knees and press back into a down or a child's pose. Nice job, guys. Maybe walk those knees out right and left. Nice. And then we'll go ahead and take our gaze up towards the top of your mat, walk it forward. And find a forward fold. And so really quickly here, just take a moment. Maybe you take a little sway right and left. Whatever feels good here in this forward fold, just allowing your body to relax over your thighs. And then let's walk our feet to touch. And then gently start to press up, lift up, reach all the way up. Exhale, palms to heart center. We'll inhale, circle sweep, hands reach high. Optional back bend here as we open up those elbows, squeeze the shoulder blades, gaze up, lean back. Inhale, reach up high. Exhale, palms to heart center. Awesome. So while you guys are standing, I just want to backtrack to that. Actually, no, I'm going to come back to this. Yeah, I'll come back to it next week. I was like, I wanted to come back to just how you can roll back from that upward facing dog to the downward dog. And then the option you can go from your modified or your baby cobra to child's pose. But we'll come to that when we do our downward facing dog, because that's going to actually fit in there now that I think about it. So we'll come back to that if that seemed a little confusing, but know you have an option if also that roll back from your upward facing dog was a little much. I can show you that option to roll back into your child's pose next week. So let's get into the last bit of our core exercise, and then we'll start to wind down here. So finding our mountain pose, so our feet to touch, maybe spread those toes out, make sure all four corners are planted firmly into the mat. Arms going down beside you. We'll inhale, circle sweep, hands reach up high. And then as you exhale, palms to heart center, start to sit low and find your seat, chair pose. So chair pose is a great pose to work on your abs. Excuse me, not abs, to work on your core muscles, your abdominals, I should say. I don't like the word abs because there's a six, the six pack abs is always the ideal thing. And we don't need six pack abs. We just need strong core. So squeeze those inner thighs together, sit a little lower here. Check in if we're leaning forward with our chest, see if we can pull our shoulders back and sit the weight into the heels. Nice job. If you'd like to go a little further here, so you can either stay here where you're at, or maybe you'd like to reach those hands back, taking a little bit more of a challenge, airplane those arms, squeeze the pinkies towards each other, and then sit your way back into the heels. Yeah. If you'd like to go even further, reach those hands forward on your next inhale, and then exhale, sweep them back. Nice job. Inhale, sweep them forward. Exhale, sweep them back. Check your seat, sit a little lower. Last one, inhale, sweep it forward. Exhale, sweep it back. We'll inhale, sweep it forward. Exhale, palms to heart center, sit your lowest. Last 3, 2, 1. Inhale, stand up, reach up. And then exhale, swan dive, arms reach out wide. Forward fold, hands towards the mat. Lifting your hips towards the sky, but bending the knees as much as we need. Maybe you shimmy out the hips a little right and left if that feels good. And then let's go ahead and take our feet hip width distance. We'll inhale, halfway lift. As we exhale, plant the palms, keep your left foot where it is, and then step your right toes all the way back to the back of your mat. We'll bend deep into the left knee and drop your right knee down. Nice job. Inhale, reach the hands high. As we exhale, twist left hand back, right hand forward. Yeah, so twisting towards the window wall. So we find our left hand pulls our torso into a twist here, keeping our shoulders stacked over the hips. Find your blast breath here. Big inhale. Exhale. Inhale, left hand sweeps forward. Let's exhale, optional back bend if you'd like to take it. Elbows bend out wide, gaze up, lean forward. Inhale, reach those hands high. We'll exhale, plant the hands inside your left foot. Walk your left foot out to the side and then up. Great place to grab for your blocks. Ooh. Oh, you're good. Using your blocks here in your little lizard's pose if you'd like, helping create some space. So you can allow your hips to relax for a deep bend in that front knee. Right leg long behind you. Just allow yourself a moment here to settle into the hips. Maybe your left knee opens out to the side, coming onto the edge of the left foot. Then you have your option to even settle on to your forearms down on your blocks or maybe onto the floor if that's in your practice. Here on your forearms, let's start to lift ourselves back up. We'll go ahead and shift our hips slightly back so that we can walk that left foot out to the side. And then give it a shake out in your tabletop. Finding your tabletop here, we'll curl under your toes, lift the knees, and then press your hips high and back. Find your downward facing dog. Create that V shape in the body. Head relaxes towards the floor, hips are high. Let's find our flow through that sun salutation. So kind of putting it all together here, whether you find your plank hold and then press back, your modified option. So we've gone through plenty of options here in our sun salutation. So from our downward dog, we're going to inhale, shift forward to find our plank pose. Finding your variation of your plank pose, whether you drop onto the forearms, stay high, drop the knees. And then slowly start to lower down, hugging those elbows in tight. Let's lead with our chin, chest, belly. We'll scoop that chest through, tops of the feet flat. Find your variation of your baby cobra, upward facing dog, full cobra. Beautiful, guys. Let those hips drop, gaze forward. And then whether you press back into your child's pose or roll over the feet and press back into your downward dog. We'll meet with hips high, head relaxed. Maybe bend one knee and the other. And then when you're ready, take your gaze up towards the top of your mat. We'll take a big step or a couple steps to meet top of our mat, forward folds. Feet together, pressing into all fours. We inhale, circle sweep, hands reach up high. Exhale, optional back bend, elbows bend out wide. Lean back, gaze up. Squeeze those shoulder blades. Inhale, reach up high. Exhale, palms to heart center. Nice job. We'll inhale, circle sweep, hands reach high. And then exhale, palms to heart center, forward fold. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, fold. Place your feet hip width distance. Keep your right foot where it is. Let's step our left toes all the way back. Bend deep into the right knee, and then slowly start to lower your left knee down to the mat. We'll inhale, reach the hands high. So we exhale, right hand opens up to the behind you, left hand forward. So twisting towards the T-sharp wall this time. Your right hand is helping guide you back into this twist and helping stack the shoulders over your hips. Gaze is wherever's comfortable on the neck. Big inhale and exhale. Next inhale, reach both hands forward. Got an optional back bend here. Open up those elbows 90 degrees. Squeeze into the shoulder blades. Gaze up, lean back. Inhale, reach those hands high. Exhale, palms plant down inside your right foot as you walk your right foot out to the side, slightly up. Great place to grab for your blocks again, finding our low lizard's pose on this side. So allowing ourselves to sink into that right knee, making sure our right foot is walked forward enough so that our knees aren't jutting out over it. And then allow your hips to sink forward. Left leg is long behind you. And relax into this. Maybe you settle down onto the forearms. If you're on the forearms, let's go ahead and lift up onto the palms. And then start to shift your hips slightly back so we can wiggle that right foot out. Give it a shake, meet in our tabletop here. Let's find one more time through that little flow, checking in our chaturanga. So curl under the toes, lift the knees, and press your hips back to your downward facing dog. And then when you're ready, shift forward into your plank pose or find your variation here, whether you find your full plank, forearm plank, or modified, dropping the knees. We'll inhale, slowly shift forward and start to exhale, lower down, bending into the elbows, keeping them tight. Lead with your chin, chest, belly, scoop your chest through, gaze toward tops of the feet flat, finding your upward facing dog or your variation, whether you find your scorpion, your cobra. And then exhale, roll over the toes, press those hips back, find your downward facing dog, or you have your option to roll back into your child's pose. And then wherever you're at here, we'll all meet in our child's pose. So drop those knees down, take the knees wide, toes to touch, sit your hips back, arms out long in front of you. Relax your head down to the mat, chest presses towards your thighs. Take a moment here, maybe rock your forehead right and left. And then finding our center with our forehead, we'll gently lift our chest, reach our right arm high to the sky on your inhale. And then exhale, weave it underneath your left armpit. Settle that right shoulder back down. Your chest relaxes on top. And then relax your head back down. Your left hand can stay where it's at, reaching forward. Notice your left shoulder needs to peel back towards the mat. So squaring those shoulders to the mat. Just releasing all that good work you did here with your chaturanga, sun salutation options. Putting that together today. We'll gently start to lift our chest up so we can release the arm, give it a shake, and then release it out long. Gently lifting the chest so we can reach that left arm high to the sky, give it a little twist. And then weave it underneath the right armpit, relax the left shoulder back down, chest relaxes down on top. Right fingers reach long. Relax your head back down. Still press your hips back towards the heels. And then notice how you can peel your right shoulder and pull that back down towards the mat, helping deepen this posture here. Go ahead and press into the palms as we lift our left arm, release it, and reach it out long. One more breath here in your child's pose as we press the hips back, relax your head and chest down. And then when you're ready here, you can start to lift yourself on up to shift your legs out so we can settle down onto the hips. We'll bend the knees, plant the feet, grab front underneath the thighs so you can start to relax down. And then when you're ready, you can hug those knees in towards the chest, give them a squeeze, maybe roll out the low back to the right and to the left. And then when you're ready, release your feet up towards the ceiling. So your legs up your invisible wall. Just allow your feet to dangle up overhead, your knees bend as much as they need. Your legs feel natural here. Just let the blood flow in the opposite direction. I realized I forgot to mention some of the benefits that you get when you are working on your upward facing dog. So we're strengthening our spine, our triceps, our traps. So all of that arm strength there that you're using, and again, using a lot of our spine strength, lengthening and elongating through there. We're also strengthening our glutes and our wrists. But again, we have to watch for our wrists. Maybe you like to roll out your feet here and wiggle those toes. And then we're also stretching in our upward facing dog, our chest and abdominals, which makes sense, that full front side kind of opening there. And then we're also improving our posture, surprisingly. So when you're ready, you can hug those knees back towards the chest, giving yourself one final hug here. Maybe really wrap your arms as much as you can around those legs. Give yourself a big hug the knees in towards the chest as you breathe in, thanking yourself for being here. And then exhale, release, full body stretch. Let it go, reach those arms long, legs long. You give everything a wiggle, take any last little movements that feel good. And then settle down here into your final Shavasana. Giving yourself a moment to settle into stillness. You guys did great today. Just allowing all that energy settle into the body and integrate here. Close your eyes if you haven't already. Just come back to your breath. Check in with the shoulders, make sure those are scooched away from the ears. Make sure the legs just relax, the arms just relax. Check in with your jaw. We tend to clench it without realizing it. Just let your jawline relax. Maybe even kind of move that mouth a little and just let it loosen up. Start to bring some awareness to the heart center of your chest. Noticing a flicker of light here, this light that is the highest version of yourself. And you feel this light each time you step on your mat, each time you come into a practice and create a space like this. So as you bring awareness to the space, breathe into this space. Allow your breath to feel and expand within the body. As you notice this light getting a little brighter, a little warmer, a little more inviting. And you notice it's starting to give you the energy you need to take on whatever comes next today. Maybe it's compassion, strength, motivation, patience. As you breathe here, feeling this energy and this space start to expand within the body, getting a little bigger, and awakening this energy throughout the body as you breathe with each breath, feeling it expand from the head all the way to the tip of the toes. Maybe you start to feel this manifest through wiggling the fingers and wiggling toes, feeling this energy expand throughout the full body, preparing you for whatever comes next today. Maybe you feel you stretch those legs long, arms long, full body stretch, or hug the knees in towards the chest. Whatever movement is calling out here to take to awaken the body, awaken senses, awaken this energy. And then no rush here. Whenever you're ready, rolling to your favorite side to find a fetal position. Using your arm as a pillow, knees slightly tucked in towards the chest. Just taking one final moment to really thank yourself. Just thank you for existing. That's all. That's all for now. That's all it needs to be. And then when you are ready, no rush, press on up to an easy seat. We'll find ourselves with our hands either stacked over your heart or maybe a palms to our center, eyes closed. Coming back to the intention you set, whether it changed, whether it showed up or didn't. On your next inhale here, let's breathe this intention in, honor it for whatever it was. And then exhale, release any expectations surrounding how it'll continue to show up for you. One more big breath, sealing this in, inhale. And exhale, let it go. The light within each of you shines so brightly as I see it also within me, but today I'm here honoring all that is you, your practice, you as a being. Thank you so much for being here. It's such a pleasure. Namaste. Thank you guys. Thank you so much.
Thank you. It was great.
Thank you.
I don't know, I've learned a lot these last 2 weeks. I haven't 2 years.
That's that. I love that. I love that. That's awesome to hear.
I have no idea, especially about the forward pathway.
Yeah.
And then just like the baby Cobra.
Yeah. That just makes me so happy. That just like,
I'm like protecting that.
yeah, it just makes me happy that like
You
it's
don't have time to go for all that.
exactly like that's the thing. I'm like, it's stuff that, and it's stuff that like I make you, but it's stuff that it's just it's like you don't always catch it. You know, and like teachers may point it out, but it's like you may not catch it unless you're like, or they don't point it out. Again, it's like you don't have time to cover it all. Yeah. Yeah. And it's like a lot of times with a class full, yeah, the teacher just doesn't have time to catch it, doesn't have time to like, or they'll like spend time on one person and then it holds up the class. You know, it's like, so it's like this balance you have to do when you're teaching a class. So I love to hear this because this makes me excited to offer this again. And if you guys don't mind, I might need you to give me like a review writing so I can have some stuff that like from people of, people, it's like reviews are always great when people, just real time experience versus me being like, it's a great class, take it. But when people are hearing from other students, that's like, so.
Like when I was new, I was just like looking around at everybody else.
Yeah.
Trying to imitate it, but not really knowing.
It's different. Exact. Well, and the knowledge, when you have the knowledge, you can really start to apply it to your own body, you know, and that's when your practice can really start to grow. So that's awesome. Well, hey, exactly. Yeah, exactly. Well, and like you said, normally you go in and you kind of imitate, and that's not really building the foundation because you're just immediately trying to like, well, what am I? I'm just trying to do what they're doing, you know? So I love that. Well, guys, before I forget, I want to mention that this week's homework, I'm going to give you kind of two options because I had a really great, you know, as far as the back strengthening and that kind of like just working this. So kind of reverse crunches is what I would love for you to try to do, whether it is if you like to take a trapeze class. I know 3 of you, I don't know if Holly, if you're ever interested in taking trapeze, but if you take a trapeze class, you can do reverse crunches when we're in our inversion, when we're hanging upside down. You can just place your hands behind your head and it just allows yourself more easier access to that like reverse crunch motion, and you're still working up those back muscles. So but if that's not something you want to try in a trapeze class, okay, yeah, so if it's not, yeah, so like if it's not something you want to try on the trapeze, I just figured that's because I know some people like trapeze. Yeah, no, and so I'm just giving you the option for those that like to take trapeze. If you want to work on your back strengthening, doing those reverse crunches in your inversion, that's a really good opportunity. But if you're not a trapeze going upside down, if that's not it, you can also do, you know, just reps of your baby cobra, of just simply like little, you know, let your chin relax and then go up and then just relax, go up and relax, you know, so you can still, yes, that engagement into your legs and pressing the tops of the feet, letting those knees naturally lift. That's going to give you more access to this, like this back strength to do that. Yeah. So, yeah. Oh, good. Good. Yeah. Well, that, if you can get a little bit of those just back, like we're just baby cobra reverse crunches, just kind of reps of that in, whether it's during a class and just kind of sneaking those in. You don't have to try to sneak it in, you know, as like an extra thing to do at home. Just throw it in when you're doing your baby cobra or before class. If you come to class, just work in some of those. And again, it's just working up this back muscle. And you don't even have to do a full baby cobra. It can just be engaging those thighs, working on lifting those knees slightly, and just kind of practice that, like using those muscles to lift slightly, you know, just more mindful engagement than actual trying to do the full pose, just kind of engaging those muscles. And yeah, and you know, it doesn't have to be a 10, but just kind of throw 3 in, you know. Yeah, but great job, guys.